A getaway car sits outside a bank, engine running, and the driver isn't watching the door. He's mouthing the words to a song only he can hear. In 3 seconds, 3 armed men are going to run out of that bank, and the only thing keeping this kid alive is a rhythm nobody else can hear. His name is Baby. He's the best getaway driver in Atlanta, and he never chose this life. A car crash took his parents when he was a boy and left him with tinnitus, a constant hum buried in his skull that never fades, not for a second, not even in his sleep. Music is the only thing that can drown it out, so he plays it non-stop, timed to his own heartbeat, using rhythm the way other people use painkillers. But that's not the only reason he's behind this wheel today. He owes a debt to a crime boss named Doc, and until it's paid, he isn't going anywhere. "You don't work for me," Doc tells him one night, cigar smoke curling between them. "You work for what you owe me." The 3 men pile back in, breathless, and Baby doesn't wait for instructions. Tires scream. Sirens rise behind them. What follows is less a chase than a performance, weaving through morning traffic, cutting corners at angles that shouldn't work, slipping under a police helicopter that never gets a clean shot. Every movement lands on the beat of the song in his ears, like he rehearsed this exact chase 1,000 times in his bedroom, in his head, long before he ever got behind a real wheel. And somehow it works. They vanish into the city, clean like they were never there at all. Back at the hideout, Doc counts the money with the calm of a man who's done this too many times to feel it anymore. Baby doesn't get a cut. Every job goes straight toward a debt he's been chipping away at since he was a teenager, ever since he made the mistake of stealing from the wrong man. "This one's for the tab," Doc says, not looking up. It's never a negotiation. It's a fact Baby has learned to live inside of. For now, Baby is free to walk away, back to a small apartment and a deaf foster father named Joseph, the only family he has left. They sit and sign to each other in silence, cooking, watching old films with the volume off, and for a moment, Baby almost looks like an ordinary kid. At night, Baby does something nobody in his line of work would expect. He records things, snippets of conversation, arguments, apologies, the hum of a diner, and turns them into tracks only he ever hears, like he's trying to hold on to proof that real life is still happening somewhere underneath all the noise in his head. Joseph doesn't know what Baby does out on those streets, and Baby intends to keep it that way. He's careful about it, careful in a way that costs him something every single time, washing the smell of gunpowder off his hands before he walks through the door, making sure his face doesn't carry whatever just happened outside. As long as the danger stays outside the apartment door, Joseph can keep looking at him like he's proud of him instead of afraid for him. That's the deal Baby's made with himself, the one thing he still controls in a life where almost nothing else is his. It won't hold. At a roadside diner, Baby meets Deborah, a waitress with an easy smile and a habit of humming under her breath while she works. "You always tap your foot like that," she says, sliding his coffee across the counter. "Or is that just for me?" For a little while, Baby feels like someone who isn't running from anything. Deborah isn't looking for a way out of danger, she's looking for a way out of a life that never goes anywhere, waiting tables in a town she never chose either, and in Baby she sees someone who might actually leave with her instead of just talking about it over coffee refills. They start planning it in pieces, just the two of them, no destination, no map, just the road and whatever's playing on the radio. Sometimes she writes the name of a town on a napkin and slides it across the counter, half joking, half not, watching to see if he'll actually say yes one day instead of just smiling and pocketing it. One night, sitting in his car outside the diner after her shift, Baby almost tells her everything, the debt, Doc, the getaway jobs, the whole truth sitting right there on his tongue, and then he doesn't because some part of him already knows the person she's falling for might not survive the confession. It's a small dream, almost embarrassingly simple. Baby knows exactly how far it is from the life Doc has him locked into, and for a while, that's enough to make him want it more instead of less. A debt like his was never supposed to end. That's the part he hasn't told her yet. Then Doc calls again and the tone has changed. "You don't quit on me, kid," he says, voice flat and cold. "Not until I say you're done." The debt Baby thought he was close to clearing isn't close to over, and this time refusing isn't on the table. Doc makes it plain, without ever raising his voice, that Baby's family will pay for any hesitation, though there's a pause before he says it, brief and almost human, like even he doesn't enjoy having to say it out loud. So Baby does what he's always done. He swallows it and gets back in the car and tells himself this is still the version of his life he can control. This crew is different, and Baby knows it before anyone says a word. Buddy and Darling are a couple, wired together by something between love and adrenaline, finishing each other's sentences with guns still in their hands, treating every job like it's just another thing they do together, no different from picking a restaurant. Bats trusts no one, and he doesn't trust Baby least of all. Kid never talks, he mutters, staring him down across the table. Kid just listens. And records. To Bats, silence isn't innocence. It's a threat sitting quietly in the front seat, waiting for the right moment to talk, and no amount of baby proving himself on the road seems to change that. The job is a post office depot, stolen blank money orders worth millions, supposed to be quick and quiet. It isn't, because Bats decides on his own to kill the men waiting inside, never realizing they're undercover cops. What was meant to be a clean job becomes a massacre in under a minute, gunfire and sirens and baby trapped behind the wheel of a car full of people who just made themselves the most wanted crew in the city. They escape, barely, tires smoking against wet asphalt, but the crew comes out of it rattled and turning on each other, eyes flicking toward baby in the mirror every few seconds. Nobody says it outright, but everyone in that car is doing the same math, wondering who talks first if the cops ever get close enough to ask. You say one word, Buddy warns him, and there's nowhere on this earth you can hide. That's the moment something in baby finally breaks loose. When Doc calls about the next job, baby says the word nobody expected from him. No. He's done watching people die in his rearview mirror, done pretending the blood on the back seat has nothing to do with him. He wants Deborah and Joseph as far from this as possible, and for a few hours he actually believes he might get to have that. Doc doesn't take no from him. This one isn't a getaway job. It's a straight-up bank robbery, armored trucks parked outside, an entire street sealed off, more guns in one place than baby has ever driven away from in his life. This is bigger than anything he's done before, and baby understands, sitting across from Doc, that every job before this one was just practice for the day Doc decided to cash in everything at once. Doc goes straight for what baby actually cares about, threatening Joseph directly, calm and specific about it, and baby is back behind the wheel one final time, telling himself it's the last, the way he's told himself before. It isn't a clean job either. Rain turns the streets to glass, the police catch wind of it far too early, and the armored escape car slams and stalls, leaving the whole crew stranded with every siren in the city closing in and no clear way out. For the first time, baby has no move left to make, no clever line through traffic, nothing but the sound of his own heartbeat filling up the silence where the engine used to be. In the scramble that follows, Bats turns his gun on an innocent security guard without a flicker of hesitation, and baby, without thinking twice, drives straight into a parked truck loaded with steel rods, ending Bats to save a stranger who was never part of any of this. It's the first time baby's ever used the car as a weapon instead of an escape, and it changes something in how he sees himself, even in the middle of the chaos. Now he has to steal another car with Buddy and Darling convinced, down to their bones, that he sold them out on purpose. He finds Deborah, and for a few minutes it's almost the dream they talked about over coffee, except there's no music this time, no highway stretching out ahead, just two people trying to survive the next 10 minutes together. Buddy isn't done with him though, and what comes next is the closest thing this story has to a reckoning. Buddy blames baby for everything, for Darling, for the job falling apart, for the whole life he thought he had, and he's willing to tear through the entire city to settle it. He tracks baby through parking garages, up stairwells, across open streets, absorbing hit after hit and refusing to go down, like grief has turned into something that simply won't stop moving. You took her from me, he growls. So now I take everything from you. Baby fights back with the only skill set he's ever had, the instincts of a driver who spent years reading danger through a windshield instead of a fist, but Buddy keeps coming. Not slowing. Not falling. Then Doc appears one last time and does something nobody sees coming. He steps between Buddy's gun and the couple running for their lives, and takes the bullet meant for baby and Deborah, going down on the wet pavement without a word. For years he was the one holding baby's life hostage, and in the end he's the one who hands it back. It's the closest thing to an apology he has left to give, after years of owning baby's life without ever once asking if that was fair. In the struggle that follows, baby is forced to kill Buddy, ending the chase but not what comes after. Police lights fill the street from every direction within seconds, red and blue washing over everything. With nowhere left to run and no one left to protect, baby makes the only choice that still means something. He raises his hands, closes his eyes, still breathing. Nothing left to run from now, for the first time since the crash that started all of this. Surrendering isn't the end of his story though. It's where the story finally asks what all of it was for. Baby is facing 25 years unless something changes. In court, he says his real name out loud for the first time in years, not the nickname a tragedy gave him when he was too young to choose one for himself. There's something about hearing it that makes the room go quiet, like the person who did all those things behind the wheel and the person standing there now aren't quite the same one. People who crossed paths with him testified to small, specific moments of decency, kindness that stood out even in the worst parts of his life. Deborah takes the stand too, describing someone who was never really a criminal, just a kid trying to survive a life he never picked for himself. He was always looking for a way out, she tells the judge, her voice catching. He just needed someone to believe him. The judge hands down the sentence, but between the testimonies and everything he did right when nobody was watching, Baby walks away with 5 years instead of 25. 5 years for a debt he spent nearly his whole life trying to pay off in the wrong currency, chasing a number that was never really about money to begin with. Prison doesn't erase him the way he half expected it to. He keeps his head down, keeps count of the days the way he once kept count of routes and getaway times, and somewhere in those 5 years, the ringing in his ears stops meaning survival and starts meaning something closer to patience. When he finally walks out, there's no engine already running, no job waiting, nobody counting what he owes. Just Deborah, standing exactly where she said she'd be, and a road ahead that belongs to no one but the two of them. Every getaway of his life was about escaping something. This is the only drive that was ever about arriving somewhere. Some roads, it turns out, you don't outrun. You drive through them, slow, on purpose, until you come out the other side still yourself. So here's what I actually want to know. If your freedom had a price tag on it, would you pay it and vanish the second you were free, or would you stay in the wreckage one more mile, just to prove you were never the person they said you were? Tell me what you'd do in the comments below. I read every single one.